The silent math behind long-horizon power. Power rarely announces itself with force. It accumulates quietly, patiently, and mathematically. And by the time it is visible, it no longer needs to persuade. This matters now because modern finance increasingly rewards those who think in years rather than quarters. While headlines focus on short-term moves, the deepest influence is built through long-horizon positioning. Power today is less about speed and more about endurance, the ability to let time do the work. The participant who does not need to win this quarter, this year, or even this cycle occupies an entirely different strategic position than the one who does. That difference compounds over time into something that cannot easily be matched by talent, capital, or technology alone. To understand this, we need to separate influence from visibility. Short-term power is loud. It demands attention. Long-horizon power is silent. It compounds. It grows through repetition, consistency, and structural advantage rather than dramatic action. The math behind it is simple, but its effects are profound. A small edge, held reliably over enough cycles, produces outcomes that dwarf anything achievable through aggressive short-term optimization. The compounding is not just financial, it is structural. Trust deepens, access widens, frameworks form around what is already endured. London has mastered this arithmetic better than almost any financial center. The city does not rely on constant dominance. It relies on persistence, on frameworks that remain in place long enough for advantage to accumulate naturally, on rules that outlast cycles, on trust that compounds slowly, then decisively. The power of London in global finance is not rooted in any single institution or any particular moment of brilliance. It is rooted in duration, in the simple and relentless fact of still being present after everyone else has reorganized. At first, this power is invisible. Returns look modest. Moves appear conservative. Progress feels slow. But beneath that restraint, accumulation is taking place. Capital is positioned where it can wait. Influence is embedded in processes rather than personalities. Advantage is calculated not for the next turn, but for the next decade. This is the first reveal. Long-horizon power is not built by winning quickly. It is built by refusing to lose slowly. And the math that governs it is always working, whether anyone is watching or not. Long-horizon power grows because time amplifies small advantages. A slight edge held consistently becomes decisive when cycles pass. While others reset after every turn, long-horizon systems keep compounding. They do not need perfect timing. They only need continuity. The math is unforgiving and patient. London understands this dynamic intuitively. The city has built influence not by dominating moments, but by shaping processes, legal frameworks that endure, market conventions that persist, relationships that survive volatility. Each element seems modest alone. Together, they create a structure that favors those already positioned inside it. This is how power becomes embedded. Rules reward familiarity. Trust favors longevity. Access deepens with repetition. Participants operating on short timelines underestimate this effect. They focus on immediate returns, visible wins, rapid exits. But long-horizon power is not chasing outcomes. It is shaping the environment in which outcomes occur. Over time, that environment does the work automatically. The participant no longer needs to assert influence. The structure produces outcomes that favor them simply by functioning normally. This creates asymmetry. Those thinking short-term must constantly adapt. Those thinking long-term allow adaptation to come to them. The longer the horizon, the less energy is required to maintain advantage. Momentum replaces effort. Influence replaces persuasion. What once needed explanation becomes assumed. London has learned that this is not accidental. It is arithmetic. Time rewards consistency more reliably than brilliance. It punishes interruption more harshly than error. And once long-horizon power reaches scale, it becomes self-reinforcing. Not because it is aggressive, but because it is already there when the next cycle begins. Every new entrant into the system encounters a landscape that was shaped by those who waited longer. Every new agreement is built using frameworks that were designed by those who thought further ahead. The advantage does not need to be defended. It simply needs to persist. The conflict emerges when short-term pressure collides with long-horizon math. As cycles accelerate, impatience grows. Participants demand visible results. Performance is judged quickly. Strategies are questioned if they do not deliver immediate proof. Long-horizon power, quiet by nature, begins to look outdated in a world obsessed with speed. London has seen this tension repeatedly. When markets surge, patience feels unnecessary. When momentum dominates, endurance looks inefficient. Those operating on long horizons are pressured to shorten their view, to optimize for the next quarter, to convert silent accumulation into visible performance. This is where long horizon power is tested, because abandoning patience breaks the math. Small advantages stop compounding. Structures designed for endurance are forced into adaptation. Consistency gives way to reaction. And once the horizon shrinks, the edge that took years to build begins eroding quickly. What took a decade to construct can be undone in a cycle by a decision to match the pace of those around you. The system faces a choice: preserve the long view and endure temporary underperformance, or chase short-term validation and sacrifice future dominance. Many choose the second. It feels safer. It feels measurable. It feels responsive. But it comes at a cost. London understands that the most dangerous moment for long horizon power is not crisis. It is confidence. When everything appears to work, pressure to accelerate becomes irresistible. And acceleration destroys the very patience that made the advantage possible. This is a paradox. Long horizon power looks weakest right before it proves strongest. And those who abandon it early rarely regain it later. Because once the math of time is interrupted, it must be rebuilt from zero, and time is the one resource that cannot be replaced. The climax arrives when the long horizon finally asserts itself. Cycles turn, momentum fades, and urgency loses its edge. This is the moment when long horizon power becomes visible, not through dominance, but through survival. Those who preserve patience are still standing. Structures built for endurance absorb pressure calmly. While others recover from exhaustion, long-term systems begin shaping the next phase. London understands this moment with clarity. The city does not rush to announce success. It allows time to confirm it. What looks slow becomes decisive. What appeared conservative becomes commanding. Influence that was embedded quietly now guides outcomes without effort. The math completes its work. Compounding reveals itself not as a spike, but as permanence. This is a resolution of long horizon power. Time was never neutral. It was always working. Those who respected it gained leverage without conflict. Those who ignored it spent energy chasing relevance. And once the cycle resets, the advantage remains with those who never shortened their view. The lesson is simple and unforgiving. Speed wins moments. Endurance wins eras. Power that lasts is not built through intensity. It is built through consistency sustained longer than others can tolerate. London's quiet strength has always lived here, not in prediction, not in reaction, but in patience measured over time. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future. What makes long horizon power so difficult to replicate is precisely its invisibility during the years it is being built. There are no metrics that clearly capture it. There is no quarter in which it decisively declares itself. It is happening in the background of every meeting, every framework, every relationship quietly maintained through a cycle that tested whether it was worth maintaining. By the time long horizon power becomes legible to outsiders, the structural advantage it represents has been decades in the making and cannot be recreated by anyone who simply decides to adopt patience as a strategy this quarter. The distinction matters because patience must be structural, not situational. Situational patience, waiting because this particular moment calls for it, is not the same as the architecturally embedded patience of institutions designed to outlast cycles. The former is a tactic that can be abandoned when pressure rises. The latter is a feature of the system itself, baked into incentives, time horizons, and decision frameworks in ways that do not yield to short-term pressure precisely because they were never designed to. London's enduring position in global finance reflects this structural depth. It is not simply that London waited well in one cycle. It is that London was built to wait, and has been waiting and compounding, and accumulating for long enough that the advantage has become self-sustaining. That is a final expression of long horizon power. Not the moment when patience pays off dramatically, but the moment when the system no longer needs patience at all, because the accumulated advantage is large enough to generate its own momentum, and the math of time has already done its most important work.